resurfaced and
Absolutely.
end up having a pretty good career.
Dynamite career. And and then I did Youngstown State football and basketball and tons of high school along the way. Got to write for the Valley Playbook for a number of years. And then long run with Y103, of course, was Mr. Sports, and took about 3 years off, still working at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Yeah.
And then resurface after 3 years with the Summit, which is heard in Youngstown, Struthers, the Mahoning Valley, also Akron,
Tell
Canton, and
us
parts
about
of
that.
Cleveland.
What is it? What do you do? And
It's a classic rock oddity show, Gary. That's what I call it. It's one-hit wonders, deep album cuts, local, regional artists of the past, and I'll have guests on. We've already done spotlights on the Michael Stanley Band.
Nice.
We've had the Human Beings. If you remember, Nobody But Me, by the Human Beings. Really, probably, maybe the second prominent Youngstown band to make it national on Capitol Records back in the late 1960s. And we had Blue Ash on. We had Left End, and I love playing tribute to the local artists and bands because I know they appreciate it. They want to keep their legacies alive, and I help them accomplish that.
Is music big in this area from your perspective?
Absolutely. You know I live and breathe it.
Yeah.
Two things outside of my family, music and sports. Maybe not in that particular order, but they'll always be at the backbone of what I do in my life.
Why did music become so important in what you do, or did you just kind of roll into that?
Well, you know, Mom had a bartender kind of support us kids when we were small, so she would take me as a young little tyke to the Classic Lounge up on the east side of Youngstown, or Lairtones, which isn't far from here, a bar that no longer is in existence on Steel Street on the west side, and she'd set me up at the counter. I would play a little shuffleboard, but the thing I most remember is her giving me $2 or $3. I go play that jukebox, and man, I fell in love with music. And this goes back to the 1960s. I was just always fascinated with the record labels. I began to learn about the bands, interviewed so many of the artists, and just began to perfect my craft over decades and decades. It was amazing.
And then your sports career, you've worked with some great people in this area, and mainly voice of the Penguins, Bob Hannon's probably.
Love working with Bobby.
I don't know. Do you work with my brother Chuck? God rest.
Absolutely,
his soul.
absolutely. And working with Chuck, Bob Hannon, and a number of people over the years, there was no bigger thrill. Did a number of things with Dana Bolish and Mike Case when they used to do the combined 21 sports together.
What's your biggest YSU moment that you could recall, that you personally experienced? Not that you watched on TV, that you were a part of.
I think it was the one championship when we were, because it was just a incredible week. We were at Huntington playing Marshall, who really had the home field advantage, and I think Darnell Clark broke off a big run to start the game, and we ended up beating them 17-5. We had a great goal line stand, and Tamaron Smith, and I was on the field with Coach Tressel, and it was just euphoria to be part of that on the sideline. And Jim paid me, I think, one of the compliments that you never forget in life. He said, I got to tell you, you have the best pregame show in America. And coming from him at that time, it just meant so much to me.
People like you and Denny Liebert, you
Denny
guys
Liebert,
cross all
phenomenal.
the T's and dot all the I's when it comes to, and we don't see Denny as much now. He's not with the 57 KVN, the sports show that they did all the time.
He should be proud of his career. I've always been a Denny Liebert fan. I watched him on 21.
It's incredible.
And he's just smooth as silk, as smooth as the other side of the pillow, like they like to say, as Stuart Scott once said on ESPN. But just a dynamic force in this area that never got the credit that he deserved, because Denny Liebert was outstanding.
Number one in my book.
All the way until the end of his broadcasting career. And hopefully somebody will give him an opportunity to go back into the industry, because nobody does it better than Denny.
Back on Knox Street. I used to go down and watch him do his thing in the studio down there. And I lived down there by Dixon, and we used to walk over and see him. And
it's just always amazing.
Bruce Burge and all.
Burgee. I grew up listening to him too. And you're friends with all these guys. And these guys all love you. And, I love you. And what a fraternity of friends that we have here. Greg Goulas is another one.
Goulas.
Greg's just an awesome person. So.
Just awesome group when I first had cancer. From Ron Potesta with his radio power.
Ronnie's terrific.
He has his opinions sometimes.
Yeah. I don't always agree with you, Mr. Potesta, but I love you, brother.
Yeah. It's just you, Greg. Greg Goulas has been there from the beginning. Bob Hannon, yourself, my brother, my family, my sister Shar, brother Ray, my mom. Everybody's been so. Ryan Kelly's done a great job. But as you say, it's a fraternity. I remember writing stories with the Playbook on Jim Campbell and Bob Hannon and Dana Bolish when they were all the three anchors at the time. And that's changed since then. And it's kind of hard to keep track of some of the newbies. But,
Absolutely.
But you see them on TV, you get to know them.
Well, let me
And
just
you see
say,
them at the games, and they're all friendly because they.
I think we set a heck of a standard. We set the bar really high. So, I mean, if the new generation is going to come along and surpass that, so be it. I mean, we're certainly not rooting against them. We're always there to be supportive. But let's say that bar was set pretty high with people like Hannon and Balish and Denny Liebert.
Jim
and
Campbell.
Jimmy Campbell did it
Well,
forever.
put it this way:
Very
when I was
professional.
40 years ago, I hate to say it, when I was in the Little League World Series, Jim Campbell was one of the. He was a Cub reporter at the time.
Yep.
He moved here from Wisconsin, not a Cub reporter, but he was relatively new, first or second year in the area. And I remember that as plain as day, and that was 40 years ago. And it went from there to, just all the great people involved in local sports over the years, from the playbook to all the people that I've gotten to meet. Because my brother Chuck started the playbook, and basically I've had a great career because of it.
You did, and you're still doing your thing with Ohio State, and Gary, you and I have talked behind the scenes a little bit, and people put on social media, and people are trying to be supportive of this gentleman here. The thing that got to me was his daughter Chloe, because I'm a father, of 3 daughters. Now I have a granddaughter as of
Beautiful
June.
family.
Thank you. But that's the thing that really touches my heart. And I know that's an inspiration for Gary in trying to beat this dreaded disease.
she's
And
doing
people
great.
say, you got this, you can do this, but they're not the ones that have to sit there with the chemotherapy. They're not the ones
with the
that get out of
colonoscopy.
chemotherapy. Bone tired, colonoscopy,
yeah.
colostomy bag,
Colostomy, that's one.
and running up and down a hill as you're doing. I mean, you're just a marathon, man, and it's amazing to watch your
It's fun.
courage and
I
the strength.
I can't, I got to keep doing what I'm doing.
You're not the prototypical cancer patient.
Let's switch gears. I mean, it's a mainly high school show, but we do touch on college and the pros, and I know you're Indians, Cavs, Browns. Cavs open up tonight. We're taping on Tuesday night. Just real quick, your thoughts. Are you bitter about Kyrie? Are you like him? You rooting for him at all, or are you done with him?
He's going to get it good tonight. I'll tell you that. The Northeast Ohio.
They ought to
Cleveland
root
sport.
for him during the video. I guess
I don't think it's going to happen. Garrett, come
he
on.
helped win us a championship.
I-
But then he turned his back on us so
Well,
bad. Worse than LeBron, I think, in a way.
I think
'Cause
the
he
most
commented about
but
us.
the most recent comments, Boston's like a real sports
Yeah,
city.
yeah.
I mean that. If you had any chance of receiving any sort of accolade or
And
love
no
from the
respect
fans,
for LeBron. At least give him courtesy. Why do I don't need to tell him I'm leaving? Well,
Exactly.
If you're boys and you hung out and you won championships together,
and
that
it's
should
still
mean something.
it's still mystifying. My take on the Cavs is what I think. I think they're still better than the Boston Celtics.
I think they're a better team than last.
I think
Deeper.
Boston's lost a lot of heart in their soul, a lot of their defense. That
and
being
their
said,
identity. They got to find a new identity.
absolutely. I mean, you lose people like Avery Bradley, Crowder. I mean, there's some heart and guts. Isaiah Thomas.
Besides Isaiah.
Yeah, exactly. Heart and soul of that team, and you bring in a Kyrie, a Gordon Hayward, and then you're going to have chemistry. Things happen your way during the course of the campaign. Much can be said for the Cavaliers. A lot of new pieces, a lot of veterans, but I like the fact that Wade and James have a history together, and I think they'll gel. Derrick Rose, of what I've seen so far in the preseason, looks
take
awesome.
this team 3-4 years ago. You got an NBA All-Star team.
Absolutely,
Unbelievable.
absolutely. I think they're deeper
Kevin
than they
Love.
were a year ago. I do. I think they're better defensively with Crowder in the lineup now, and then the second 5 is a pretty darn good team too. So they're deep. They're 10 deep,
They're deep.
maybe
Yeah.
12. I
Yeah,
mean,
they
they're
got
they're
those
that
young,
good.
Couple of young kid in the trade, and then they got the 2018 pick.
Absolutely.
Could be unprotected
From the
1, 2, or
Brooklyn
3.
Nets. Yeah.
That's the steal of the whole trade, I think.
Absolutely.
I hated it. I'll be honest with you. I was a Kyrie Irving fan.
Mm-hmm.
Hated that he left. Hated how he left. Hated the stuff that he said. I'm not a fan anymore. I had no reason to. I wish him well. Good for him. But I hope they beat the crap out of him tonight here.
Absolutely. But I think the fans are going to be, they're going to show no mercy tonight. I really
I
believe
think you
that.
got to show him some love.
I don't think you're going to get it.
I don't think so either.
I don't think you're going to. It won't be anything like when LeBron returned. I mean, that was downright vicious. LeBron
I
was
think-
quoted as saying they were throwing batteries at me
Well, they're
at the
gonna-
Q.
They're gonna,
It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, he will have a rough time. I believe. And it's kind of like Joe Hayden, who's been a Cavs fan for a long time. I don't think he'd get that same reception anymore.
Oh, absolutely.
He's with the Steelers. What do you expect? I
Uh-huh.
mean, Browns cut him. I don't beg, but going to the Steelers and now he's going to be.
Well, I saw Hayden on a national, I think it was this morning or something, on a national talk show, and he was out of Cleveland. It was one of those ESPN channels, and they seemed to show some love. But he told the fans, he goes, I got nothing but love for you people in Cleveland. Speaking about the Browns, it's, I've been a huge Jackson supporter. from the outset. I've always
Let me
believed.
preface this by saying, Potesta said he'd come out Monday and fire the whole. After he sit there and begged about you can't break up a team. You got to let them, no matter how bad they are, you got to let them grow and evolve. And he's ready to break up the band after.
They're 1-21, Gary.
I understand.
I'm for some continuity in this organization, but the
what we
names
need.
and faces and the personnel change and the results stay the same. Hugh Jackson is involved with these draft choices. Hugh Jackson's the guy that said with Cody Kessler, trust me on this one. Cody Kessler, so far, is a non-factor in the season. He's the guy that passes on Deshaun Watson. Watson is now claiming that Hugh Jackson sent him a text on draft day saying, be ready because we're about to take you,
Well,
which
maybe it's not
Jackson
his fault.
refutes.
Maybe it's not Jackson's fault.
And then you go with Kaiser, who's clearly overmatched at this stage, where Watson isn't.
Clearly overmatched.
Carson Wentz they passed on a year ago. They keep trading down and stockpiling draft picks, and then the draft picks that they do take aren't producing on the field. Peppers looks terrible at this juncture, and
And Garrett's hurt.
it all, well, he's just come back, but it all ends up in losses and losses and losses, and something's got to be done here. They have no bona fide wide receiver. No, didn't they draft in Hugh Jackson's first draft? Am I wrong? They drafted four or five wide
Three or
receivers.
four, yeah.
Not one of them impacted.
they're
The only
kind of- yeah.
Coleman was the only one that had a shot, and he
Coleman,
can't
he
stay
was hurt
healthy.
most of this
He's
year.
broke his hand in back-to-back years. They have no ground game to speak of, so there's a
Higgins
lot of
and
pressure
Lewis,
on the
and, Yeah,
quarterback.
they drafted a few wide receivers
It's just not
that
working.
haven't panned out, though. So you're pro on the Cavs. You're anti, not against. I don't want to say against. You're down on the Browns. Indians, what do you take away from their season?
Huge disappointment, and I said
22 game streak didn't mean as much.
well,
so.
prior to Game 5, it's like in Kluber we trust, Klubot,
Yeah,
well, I hate to say it, but it's been 3 consecutive postseason outings now
And
for
we're
Kluber.
0-5 in closeout games in the last 2 years.
Exactly. We've been knocked out after being swept in the last 2 years, and Kluber's been a huge part of that. Disappointment.
We just had our Dodgers slump at the wrong time. Dodgers had their slump and they recovered.
Exactly.
We just slumped and
I don't know if I put so much on that. I
I
think
think it is. They didn't hit the ball.
people
After that 22 streak, they couldn't help themselves scoring runs.
people don't like to question geniuses, but I'm about to offer something here that maybe is in the minority opinion, maybe something that you haven't heard too much of. I think Tito, in the past 2 years, as brilliant as he is as a manager, may have overdone it a little bit. I thought he overstressed the pitching staff last year against the Cubs to the point where the 3-1
they were
a
tired.
series lead.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a worn-out Andrew Miller and Corey Kluber going down the stretch there. These were 2 big guns that we needed. So they blew 3 there and lost the 3-1 lead. Took us from an opportunity to win our first World Series title since 1948. And then this year, you're up 2-0 in a game where you were basically given a gift. You have the Yankees on the ropes. They're questioning themselves. They're ready to get rid of Girardi for not challenging the Chisenhall strikeout. And it gets cute again. The bats go silent in Game 3.
Gotta manufacture
That was a
runs
key
somehow.
one there because Carrasco pitched a heck of a ball game.
Yeah.
And then in Game 4 and 5, they started booting baseball around. And then again, we throw the ball in Kluber's hands for Game 5, and again, he comes up short. So
Clearly, Urshela wasn't ready for the line, just like last year Naquin wasn't. He's there for defense. Am I correct? Urshela third base, 2 big boots in the same 2 innings.
people are questioning Tito Francona. And look, I don't want to play armchair quarterback here or armchair manager, but you got Jason Kipnis in center field, and I think that's a liability, certainly from the arm standpoint. And there were a lot of people questioning why Austin Jackson wasn't
center
out there.
fielder, I think, at Arizona State. I don't know, back in the day.
Some weak throws to home plate, brother. Some weak throws to home plate. I'm just saying that I'm not so sure looking back, and who knows what yin and yangs the series might have taken, but I certainly would have started Kluber in Game 1. As masterful performance as Trevor Bauer gave us in Game 1, he reared his ugly head to his preceding form in his next outing, and the rest was history. Cleveland loses again.
Let me ask you before you go, Youngstown State, you still connected? You still proud?
Absolutely.
You got your Penguin gear on?
I'm always going to be connected. I got a chance to meet Coach Pelini a couple of months ago, and obviously with Jim Tressel running the university, there's always going to be nothing but love there for my alma mater. Tough loss for them, but still ranked 9th in the country with a 3-3 record. So obviously, from the prognosticators and the experts that rank the collegiate teams at that level of football, they still think enough of YSU in their schedule to rank them in the top 10. So that's pretty
they can
impressive.
only lose maybe one more.
Well, that's just it.
That's it.
There's not
Maybe-
a lot of margin for error.
Northern Iowa could be like their last chance.
Absolutely.
save their season possibly. Are you a Buckeye fan?
I love the
As
Buckeyes.
much as
Love the Buckeyes, and again, isn't this eerily reminiscent of the season they
2014?
lost to Virginia Tech early on, and people were counting the Buckeyes
But
out, and you see Clemson
JT's
and Washington
3 years,
State.
JT's 3 years older now. And
Well,
much
let me
more-
ask you a question about
much more
Barrett.
experience.
You know, and I know your opinion. You watch more of the Buckeyes than I do from a close-up angle, certainly. JT Barrett, is he the quarterback you want
Yes.
on the field in a big game?
Yes,
in
without
a big
question.
game against a very tough defense.
Without question. I think he's coming into his own even more than before. I think.
So, being a senior, what happened against Oklahoma?
It just happened. They weren't ready. They weren't prepared. I'm not happy with it. It was, you could say, the competition level was different there, and now his last 5 games, he's 22 touchdowns and no interceptions. You can't explain that away. I mean, against
So they
sisters
have
of the poor.
they have a bye week. They get to rest up. They have the
And then
showdown with Penn State.
That's it. That's
At the
all the
Horseshoe.
marbles. This is the season. They lose, they're done.
And
It's
you have
over.
all the faith in the world in Barrett in the Penn State game.
I have all the faith in.
In Barrett in the Penn State
Yes,
showdown.
I do.
Okay.
I think they're getting better.
I hope you're right. I
The
hope you're
receivers
right.
are getting better. Their running game has stepped up since Weber's return. Dobbins has been unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Mario McCall. He doesn't even sniff the field. He's their third running back pretty much. Antonio Williams is there too as well. But I like their offense. The receivers are, you guys, Austin Mack, Ben Victor, these guys are all high school 5-star kids.
Exactly.
All these kids are starting to finally. Paris Campbell, Akron St. Vincent St. Mary St. James, right down the road here. He was fantastic. He's coming into his own.
And the secondary is starting to get some seasoning now. They were all
Sure.
raw rookies at the beginning, and
Sure.
you could see where their play is starting to pick up and
Denzel
become more
Ward is
productive.
playing fantastic. And, the other corner, Sheffield or whoever, Jeffrey Okuda's starting to get more. He was a 5-star out of Texas. I mean, these guys, they got some players. They got talent, and it's going to continue. And then you got the battle next year between Haskins and Burrows for backup quarterback. And I'm a Tate Martell fan. I think he could be the Baker Mayfield of Ohio State in a couple years. And then Emory Jones is coming in next year as a highly touted, another 4 or 5-star quarterback that's there.
So, Gare, if they win out,
Yeah.
we see a weekend where Clemson and Washington State, who are ahead of us, lose. They fall behind.
Clemson's behind.
Correct. But prior to,
Yeah.
and now Ohio State sliding up. We talked about the similarities with 14. Ohio State wins out. Are they going to the playoffs
I
this year?
believe so.
I think so, too, 'cause
they'll
you
beat
lose early.
Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship. Wisconsin had their hands full with Nebraska the week before.
Who we just
They
routed.
won, but I think they take care of Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, who's likely to be on the other side. If we take care of business with Penn State and Michigan, we have to win those games, obviously, and it helps that we don't have a Big Ten loss like we were in the situation with losing to Penn State last year, which kind of ended up being our, we didn't get to play for the Big Ten championship. So I think they'll get in there. They'll play Wisconsin. I'm being optimistic, obviously, but I believe that this team's playing some good football regardless of the competition right now, I think.
I can't wait to see how it all plays out, but I agree with you. I think a lot of things are aligning in the Buckeyes' favor. I like the fact that they have that break prior to the Penn State showdown. Then you come back to the Horseshoe and you're at home. Everything's lining up for them. Now they have to go out and produce it on the field
Sure.
because it
Against
might
a
all
good
look
Penn
good.
State team.
Absolutely. Penn State's phenomenal. Great football
They are
program.
ranked second in the country, and they deserve to be.
Well, they're
Coming
not
off a
going to
good
be
season
after a
last year.
couple weeks.
Yeah.
They're not going to be. They're not going to be.
Yeah. Finally, John Summit, just give us an idea. Tell us about it. How can they listen to you? Where do they get it? How do they hear you? What kind of things you have in store?
Well, we have the guests, as we mentioned, but deep album cuts. When you maybe you bought, when you were in high school, Gary, AC/DC's Back in Black. You might hear You Shook Me All Night Long or the title track Back in Black. We'll play every cut from that album, any of the cuts. Probably not the main hits. And that's what I love about it. We go from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. I know the music well. We'll give you background. We'll give you the album it was from, the year it was from, a little bit of notation on the song. And then we'll play forgotten classics, songs that you don't hear on the radio in the tight rotations that corporate radio plays. Songs that might have hit top 20, but they're just not being played anymore. It's like we want to create that oh wow effect. My gosh, I remember that. I haven't heard that in 20 years. And if I can accomplish that, I'm doing my job. Then the local and regional artists, the artists that are being forgotten about. I mean, a lot of radio stations don't play the left end and the glass harp. I mean, except on occasion. But we feature artists like that, and I'm proud of that.
Donnie Iris?
Yeah, Donnie Iris and the Cruisers. And I'm not just going to play for
big
Back
time.
on the Streets and King Cool. I'm going to play the other albums, Fortune 410, High and Mighty, and those albums. And that's what we do. I mean, and I love doing it, and we're getting great
Do you
feedback
tape
on it.
live? How does it work?
We record, normally I record on Tuesday, but see, I'm here with my brother Gary, because this takes precedence, and my buddy Gary House takes precedence over that. We'll do our recording tomorrow night, and we're heard here on WKTL in Youngstown and the Mahoning Valley,
Which is the old
90.7.
Struthers High School.
Yeah, that's where I record, 90.7 FM. They wanted me to come to Akron, and he said, you know what, Tommy Bruno, the general manager, Brad Savage is the program director, says, you know what, record the show in Struthers, it's closer for you, we'll upload the file and send it out to Akron. And then we're syndicated, a mini syndication of 91.3 WAPS in Akron, Canton,
or is it just
Cleveland.
One-shot deal? Like this
No,
is on YouTube?
every week we record a new show, sometimes two, which exhausts me, but it's a lot of fun. You know, it's not easy because you're working
It's not
Greenwood.
easy being a top seller at Greenwood Chevrolet and
Well-
then having to go do something else.
Do you see this ring? I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. It's a lot of hard work. But no, you put in your 9 to 11 hour day out there, and then you have to suck it up, and you're like, okay, no one wants to hear excuses. You got to go out there and deliver an A+ performance, and that I'm very proud of. Because if people knew how tired I am driving into that radio studio.
Plug your employer.
Greenwood Chevrolet, trust-driven. Greg Greenwood, the best boss on the planet. I've always said it. He's a great friend, and I produce for him, and just proud to work for him. I mean, you could not have a better boss. 4695 Mahoning Avenue, 330-792-5252. By the way, my extension's 1166. New, pre-owned, whatever you want. We got it at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown.
Now, are there a lot of local sports fans there? I know Davis.
Oh, absolutely.
Rich Davis works there. and
Yeah, CD. I love CD. He's one of my best friends out there. Pete Francis, another great friend of mine.
All sports
We're always
guys?
talking sports. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow, Roger Thurman's a big NBA fan. He's going, what about your Cavs last night? So that'll be the first thing I'll be greeted with upon arrival at work tomorrow. So it'll be
Are
fine.
you there every day of the week in Greenwood? Or
I was off today, but we get Sundays off, and then we're on a rotating basis during the course of the impending future weeks.
So a big football game, is it on somewhere in the break room or somewhere?
No, we sneak out to the parking lot and put it on the radio.
There you go.
Greg, I'm sorry. I'm just joking. No, it never happens. Sorry.
That's Mr. Sports, John Batcho.
Gary House,
It's been a pleasure as always. Great guy, great friend, somebody you can count on, somebody reliable. If you're looking for a car, you're looking for a friend, there's the guy right there.
Love
John
you, Gary.
Batcho. Thank you for
Nothing but
for
the best of
coming
luck
in
to you.
and representing, and I appreciate it. Thank
Always
you.
got your back, my brother.
Thank you. You do.
Gary House, too. Number
Sincere.
one.
We'll be back with more Yards After Contact from Kelly's Bar on Mahoney Avenue in Youngstown, Ohio. And welcome back to Kelly's Bar. This is Yards After Contact, and with me now is the head coach of the amazing, I'm going to use that word, Lakeview Bulldogs. I had the privilege of watching them take down the Poland Bulldogs on Friday night. Very impressive. Loved your quarterback, loved your offense. I'm a big offensive guy, and I love things you do there. And your defense played pretty well, too. You exposed the Poland team in a lot of ways. That, probably pretty much everybody outside of Lakeview thought Poland was going to win that ball game. Your thoughts after a great victory for your team and what it means to you guys going forward now, Tom?
I can't say enough about the atmosphere there. I'm really proud of our coaching staff, but especially proud of our kids. Every single one of them. The guys even didn't play in that. You watch the reaction at the end of the game and in the locker room, at home, and our guys just played so hard and they competed so hard, and hats off to the Poland crew too. They played so hard. It was just a great atmosphere for a high school football game, and we're fortunate to come out with a win. And all it did was that it earned us a share of the title, the conference title, which was really important to us. Is one of the goals that our kids had before the season started, and I couldn't be more proud of them.
And it puts you in a nice position going forward.
Well, yeah.
Even though you're concentrating on champion.
Yeah, we are. It's week 9 right now, and that's where our feet's got to be. We always try to emphasize, hey, keep our mind and our backside in the same spot. And right now is our most important game this week is our rival, and so we're looking forward to that one.
Now, pulling off a nice start in this game. Did it do anything? Change anything you were doing that?
It definitely concerned us a lot more than what we'd like it to be. But give them credit. They made plays. And and they're a really good football team. They're well coached, and they got some senior players that play a lot of football for them, and they're talented. and we know they were dangerous going into that. And but you know, our kids just kept playing. You know, they just kept playing. They trusted each other. They trusted the coaches. And you know, I think it was important there that when it was 17-0, that we put a drive together, and we were fortunate enough to score there at the end of the.
That's amazing.
I mean, we were at the beginning of the second quarter, you know, and then but you just you know, we just kept playing more than anything else. We competed every play.
Now, being a veteran staff that you have pretty much, what were you looking at Poland? What did you see that made you feel pretty good that you could expose them in any way?
I'm not sure anything made me feel real good when I was scouting them.
You were
and
concerned with their
them.
running game.
We were very concerned about their run game. We were very concerned about
Not much about the pass.
Oh no, we're very concerned about the
Yes.
pass game. You know, they got some weapons on the outside
Yeah.
with the Diaz kid, and
Yeah, Diaz makes plays for them.
and you know, the Alessi kid, or
Yeah.
15, and the tight end. Oh my gosh, he's just a stud, an absolute stud. And I mean, the two running backs, but you know, I mean, Cole Costco, I think, has an outstanding arm, and he throws the ball really well. And you know, and they pose a lot of problems for you. I mean, they're tough to defend, and I mean, they scored 29 points on us. You know, and it's just, they're really good. And you know, and
Did you feel you had the weapons
Well,
to defeat them realistically? Did you feel good about what you were?
We felt, you know, I think we got a confident crew.
How did you lose to
listen,
Howland? Was
well,
it mistakes? That's what.
you know,
That's
Howland-
what kind of. Here's
you know,
Lakeview. You know,
Howland's
they're good, but they lost to Howland.
Well,
No, okay. They're okay.
I mean, go
They're-
see what Samari Dean looks like.
They're
healthy.
okay.
All right,
I
Samari
understand-
Dean is pretty good.
I understand.
You know, and they got a couple of guys there too that I think are pretty good as well.
yeah.
And you know, and week one is a tough week all the time, but you know, give credit to Howland. They
Was that at
played-
their place?
It was at their place. They played well. We missed some opportunities, and you know, we just didn't win. You know, I thought we competed hard enough. I mean, I thought we prepared hard enough, and you know, but sometimes things happen and it just doesn't work out. And but it doesn't mean that we didn't play hard. Doesn't mean that we didn't try hard. Doesn't mean that we didn't prepare hard. And you know, but our kids, I mean, they knew, hey, we had 9 more games after that one, and I know they were disappointed. I didn't think they would like to have another shot at them, but you know, it is what it is, and we had to move on.
Reeled off 7
and
straight.
we did. Yeah, right now we're going into week 9, and you know, like I said, we got a big game this week.
I love your quarterback. Can I say that?
Sure. Yeah. You're not the only one.
I don't know if he gets enough recognition because
Yeah.
you know you see the numbers in the paper, but until you see him and stuff that
Yeah.
he did and can do, geez, that's
we're-
got to be exciting on your behalf.
I mean, we're excited about Zach, and we're excited about his fellow seniors as well. We know what they brought to the table here the last 4 years as part of our program. They're a crew, and I think Zach is an example of this. But you can talk about any senior and describe the same way that, you know, they care about each other, they care about football, they care about getting better, and they're a committed crew to being the best as they can be and being a Lakeview Bulldog. And we couldn't be more proud of them. And you know, Zach at quarterback, I mean, quarterback is a position unlike any other in sports. Where, like, I mean, if you don't have that guy that can help manage the ship there, and be able to make plays when they have the opportunity to make them plays, you know, things can be really hard. Not that you can't win, but it can be really hard. But when you have somebody like Zach Rogers and
Coach on the field?
yeah, he's a coach on the field. He's but most of all, he's tough. Boy, he's tough with a capital T, and you know, he's mentally tough. He's physically tough, and he's not afraid to compete. And